What if I told you that the very things men call weaknesses in women are not flaws at all, but secret maps to understanding the human heart? Think about it. Fear of rejection, constant overthinking, craving security. Are these signs of fragility, or are they reflections of the same struggles you and I face every day? Here's the controversial part. Most men misread these signals, turning relationships into battles instead of bridges. But what if Stoic wisdom could flip the script, showing you that what looks like weakness might actually be the key to deeper strength? The emotional landscape. When it comes to relationships, we often spend so much time learning how to impress, how to provide, or how to lead, that we forget one of the most important lessons: understanding. Real connection comes not from memorizing techniques or copying some alpha male playbook, but from grasping the deeper emotional currents that flow through another person. And here's the thing, women, just like men, carry their own unique set of struggles, weaknesses, if you want to call them that, not to diminish them, but to recognize the areas where empathy and wisdom can bridge gaps. When you understand these, you don't just build stronger relationships, you also grow as a person. So let's start with the emotional landscape, the inner challenges many women face, the ones that shape their decisions, their moods, and their way of relating to men. 1. Fear of rejection. Rejection hurts everybody. No one likes to hear no, no one enjoys feeling unwanted. But for many women, rejection hits in a particularly deep way. It's not just he didn't text back or she didn't get the job. It can easily spiral into a story about self-worth. I'm not good enough, I'll never be chosen, something must be wrong with me. This isn't weakness in a derogatory sense. It's human vulnerability, amplified by cultural and social conditioning. Think about how often women are subtly told their value comes from being chosen, whether by a partner, by society, or even by peers on social media. So when rejection comes, it can shake their sense of identity. This is where Stoic wisdom has something powerful to offer. The Stoics Stoicit. Focus on what you can control. You cannot control if someone accepts or rejects you, but you can control your response, your dignity, and your steadiness. For men in relationships, this means two things. First, patience. If a woman you're with is carrying this fear, recognize it's not about you personally, it's about her inner story. Second, steadiness. Reassurance isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply showing you won't disappear when things get uncomfortable. 2. Overthinking and self-doubt. Now let's be real, men overthink too. But research and everyday experience show that many women tend to analyze and reinterpret details much more frequently. A simple text like, okay, can become a 3-hour mental spiral. Why, Ma? Because overthinking often masks insecurity. It's the mind's way of searching for certainty where none exists. Instead of sitting in silence, the brain runs wild with what ifs and maybes. The modern world only makes this worse. Social media creates endless opportunities for comparison. She's prettier, she's more successful, she's happier in her relationship. That comparison then fuels doubt, and doubt fuels overthinking. If you're in a relationship, you'll likely see this play out. Maybe she asks, "Do you really love me?" Even after you've said it. Maybe she replays your argument long after you've moved on. Here's the Stoic perspective. The more you focus on controlling external validation, the more miserable you become. So the best way you can help isn't by feeding endless reassurance. It's by embodying calm clarity. Answer directly without sarcasm, without games. And when she spirals into overthinking, don't get dragged into the storm. Be the anchor. Over time, that calmness creates a safe space. It doesn't eliminate overthinking overnight, but it slowly teaches that certainty isn't found in overanalyzing. It's found in trust. 3. Emotional dependency. When trust builds, another dynamic often shows up: emotional dependency. On the surface, it can look sweet. She opens up, she relies on you, she leans into the relationship. But sometimes that reliance grows into something heavier, an expectation that you'll carry all of her emotional weight. This often ties back to early attachment styles. If someone grew up without consistent emotional support, they might cling hard when they finally feel safe. And while closeness is beautiful, too much dependency can strain both people. Here's where balance matters. On one end of the spectrum, some men overindulge this dependency. They become the rescuer, always rushing to fix, always giving up their own needs. That leads to burnout. On the other end, some men pull away completely, leaving her feeling abandoned. The Stoic path is the middle way, compassion without codependency. You can be present without being consumed. You can encourage her independence while still offering support. In practice, this means asking, "What do you think would help?" instead of always solving. It means sometimes sitting in silence together instead of rushing to soothe. By holding this line, you not only protect your own energy, you also give her the chance to strengthen her own emotional resilience. 4. Sensitivity to criticism. Let's talk about feedback. Most people don't love criticism, but for many women, it can feel especially personal. Even constructive suggestions can sting, not because they're weak, but because their sense of worth is often deeply tied to relationships and connection. So when a man says, "Why don't you ever?" or "You should just," it can land as a rejection of her, not just her action. This is where language matters. The Stoics believed in truth, but also in delivery. Words can heal or harm. Feedback wrapped in contempt creates defensiveness. But feedback wrapped in empathy creates growth. So instead of saying, "You're too sensitive," you might try, "I see this really matters to you. Can we look at it together?" It's not about sugarcoating it. It's about recognizing the human need for dignity. Criticism doesn't have to wound. It can guide if it's offered with calmness, respect, and the intention to build rather than to tear down. So here in part 1, we've walked through the first 4 weaknesses, or maybe better said, vulnerabilities: the fear of rejection, the tendency to overthink, emotional dependency, and sensitivity to criticism. These aren't flaws to judge, but truths to understand. And as a man, recognizing them doesn't make you superior. It makes you capable of building healthier, more resilient bonds. In part 2, we'll go deeper into the core needs that often drive women in relationships. The desire for security, the need for appreciation, and the differences in communication that can make or break connection. Because once you understand the emotional landscape, the next step is learning the deeper needs that shape the journey. The deeper needs understanding emotional vulnerabilities is just the beginning. If part 1 was about recognizing the storms that swirl within, part 2 is about uncovering the foundations, the deeper needs that quietly drive so much of women's choices, reactions, and desires in relationships. And here's the key. When you see these needs clearly, you stop misinterpreting them as demands or flaws. Instead, you recognize them as deeply human signals for connection. 5. Desire for security. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood topics, security. A lot of men hear security and immediately think money. The stereotype goes, women want a man with a big bank account, the house, the car, the lifestyle. And sure, financial stability matters. No one denies that. But in reality, what women usually mean by security goes far beyond dollars. It's about emotional steadiness. It's about knowing that when life falls apart, you won't. That when stress hits, you don't crumble, lash out, or vanish. Think about it this way. If your partner has to constantly wonder whether you'll still be there tomorrow, or whether you'll spiral every time things get hard, that's insecurity, not safety. True security is when your presence feels like an anchor in the middle of chaos. The Stoics called this resilience, meeting external storms with an inner calm. And that's exactly what women feel drawn to, not the size of your paycheck, but the steadiness of your spirit. So if you want to create security, start with yourself. Manage your emotions. Build consistency. Prove, not with flashy gestures, but with your daily actions, that you can be counted on. That's the kind of security that endures. 6. Need for appreciation. Now let's move to something smaller on the surface, but often bigger in impact. Appreciation. Women, like anyone else, want to feel seen. But here's the catch. They often crave recognition for the small things, not just the big milestones. It's easy to say thank you when she lands a promotion or throws a party. But what about when she makes coffee in the morning? Or remembers your mom's birthday? Or simply shows up for you in ways so routine you barely notice? When those things go unrecognized, it can quietly create resentment. The mind says, if he doesn't notice the small ways I care, maybe he doesn't care about me at all. Science backs this up. Research shows that expressions of gratitude increase oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Put simply, appreciation isn't just nice, it's relationship glue. From a Stoic perspective, gratitude is also central to a good life. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to notice the blessings, not just the burdens. So when you show appreciation, you're not just nurturing her, you're cultivating your own character. And the best part, appreciation doesn't cost you a thing. It just requires attention. A simple, I saw what you did, and I appreciate it, can mean more than $1,000 gift. 7. Communication differences. Now let's tackle one of the oldest sources of conflict between men and women. Communication. Men often communicate to solve. Women often communicate to connect. And that difference, if misunderstood, can create endless tension. Take this scenario. She tells you about a stressful day. Your instinct is to fix it. You start offering solutions. Well, just tell your boss this, or why don't you try that? But she doesn't want a solution, at least not yet. What she wants is presence, someone to listen, to empathize, to sit in the emotion with her. On the flip side, women sometimes expect men to read between the lines. When she says, I'm fine, what she might mean is, I'm hurt, but don't know how to say it. Men take the words literally. Women expect intuition. Cue misunderstanding. The Stoic answer here isn't to overcomplicate things. It's to practice active listening, to slow down, clarify, and engage without defensiveness. Instead of assuming, ask, do you want me to just listen, or do you want advice? That one question can dissolve hours of tension. Communication differences are not flaws. They're simply different languages. The more fluent you become in hers, the less conflict you'll face and the deeper the bond you'll build. So far, we've covered the vulnerabilities: fear of rejection, overthinking, dependency, sensitivity, and now we've added the deeper needs: security, appreciation, and communication. What's the pattern? Women, like men, want stability, recognition, and understanding. But they express and experience those needs in ways that can look like weakness you don't take the time to understand. As men, your job isn't to fix these needs, it's to honor them, to meet them with empathy, and to use them as opportunities to grow in patience and wisdom yourself. And that brings us to part 3, where we'll put all of this into the modern context. Because let's face it, relationships today don't exist in a vacuum. Social media, cultural shifts, generational changes, they all play a massive role in shaping how men and women see themselves in each other. So in the next section, we'll explore how modern pressures magnify these weaknesses, and how Stoic wisdom can help both men and women navigate love in today's noisy, uncertain world. We've walked through the emotional landscape, and we've uncovered the deeper needs. Now it's time to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because no matter how timeless Stoic wisdom might be, relationships today don't happen in a vacuum. They're happening in a world filled with distractions, comparisons, and shifting cultural norms. If you don't understand that context, you'll miss half the story. 8. The impact of social media. Let's be honest, social media has reshaped the way women and men see themselves and each other. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and dating apps constantly bombard people with curated, filtered snapshots of life. For women, this often amplifies insecurities, the fear of rejection we talked about. Multiply it by scrolling past endless images of seemingly perfect lives in perfect relationships. Overthinking, supercharged by comparing every aspect of your life to an idealized feed. It's not just about vanity, it's about identity. When your worth is measured in likes, it's easy to feel that silence means invisibility, that fewer hearts means you're less lovable. The Stoic answer here is radical simplicity. Don't mistake external applause for internal value. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Social media is just the modern stage where this ancient struggle plays out. As a man, understanding this dynamic means not dismissing her worries as just Instagram drama. It means seeing how deeply tied social approval has become to self-esteem and encouraging a return to inner grounding. 9. Generational and cultural shifts. Next, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked: context across time. Women today are not living in the same world their mothers or grandmothers did. In past generations, security often meant financial stability above all else, because women had fewer options. Today, many women are financially independent. They're leaders, entrepreneurs, decision makers, which means their need for security has shifted. It's less about who pays the bills and more about emotional partnership, shared values, and mental resilience. At the same time, modern dating culture has created new uncertainties. Hookup culture, ghosting, endless choices, it all feeds the very vulnerabilities we've been talking about. Fear of rejection, overthinking, sensitivity to criticism. If you ignore these generational shifts, you end up clinging to outdated stereotypes. But if you pay attention, you realize that modern women are often stronger, more independent, and more ambitious than ever, yet still human, still carrying those timeless needs for safety, appreciation, and understanding. Stoic philosophy is uniquely suited to bridge this gap because it teaches adaptability. The world changes, but wisdom doesn't. 10. Shared human traits. Finally, we need to bring this conversation back to balance. Because here's the truth. Many of the so-called weaknesses we've explored aren't exclusive to women. Fear of rejection, men carry it too. Overthinking, plenty of men spiral in silence. Emotional dependency, criticism sensitivity. The truth is, these are human struggles, simply expressed differently across genders. By calling them out in women, the goal isn't to label or judge. The goal is to recognize patterns so that men can understand, empathize, and respond with wisdom rather than frustration. But wisdom also requires humility. The Stoics would remind us, you can't control another person's weaknesses. You can only master your own. So while understanding women is valuable, it's equally important to look in the mirror and see where you too might be vulnerable, where you too might need growth. In the end, relationships work best not when one side plays teacher and the other plays student, but when both commit to growth. So let's tie it all together. We began with the emotional landscape, fear of rejection, overthinking, dependency, sensitivity. Then we uncovered the deeper needs, security, appreciation, communication. And finally, we placed all of it in the modern context. The influence of social media, the shifts across generations, and the reminder that many of these struggles are human, not just feminine. When you put all of this together, you realize something powerful. Understanding isn't about control, it's about compassion. It's about using knowledge not to manipulate, but to build a healthier, steadier, more meaningful bond. Stoic wisdom shows us that while we can't change the world, we can change how we meet it. The same is true in relationships. You can't erase someone's insecurities, but you can choose to respond with patience. You can't prevent someone from overthinking, but you can offer clarity instead of chaos. You can't rewrite cultural pressures, but you can create a safe, secure, grounded connection that resists them. At the end of the day, every weakness is simply a doorway into deeper understanding. And if you're willing to walk through that doorway, not with arrogance, but with humility, you'll find that relationships stop being a battlefield and start becoming a partnership where both people grow stronger together. So let me leave you with a question. Out of all the weaknesses and needs we've explored, which one do you think matters most in today's relationships? Is it the need for security, the impact of social media, or maybe something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, because at the end of the day, wisdom grows in conversation, not in silence.